Triple XP. Triple XP.
Welcome to Triple XP. This is episode 23. I'm Shane, and with me I have Mike.
Sup?
And this week we have the return of the absolutely wonderful JB.
Hello.
So handsome.
Hopefully we won't have to edit any of JB's jokes out this week.
I'll be good, probably.
Probably. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the other important podcast places. On this week's episode, we discuss the weird decisions over at Crystal Dynamics. Mike reviews Curse of the Dead Gods.
Yep.
And we get talking about reboots. But before we do any of that, how are you both on this fine day?
Pretty good. Yeah.
I'm well, thank you. I actually, despite the fact that everything's still locked down, a lot has happened since I was last here. We got a cat, so that's been really fun. I finished Persona 5 Royal, which it took 211 hours to do. So
Wow.
I'm sure.
Wowza.
It felt like quite an accomplishment. And I have my next tattoo is booked for the end of April. So I've had all kinds of happenings on since I've been here last.
What are we looking at with your next tattoo? What are you getting?
Is it my
I'm
face?
kind of doing, yes, Mike's face.
Reasonable.
I'm doing kind of like cover-ups, really. I have some old like Marine Corps tattoos, which I still like them, but they're kind of like, I got them when I was a young man and wanted people to think I was tough. And I'm old now, and I have a cat and a dog, and out in the country with Sarah. I'm like, I don't need these hard ass tattoos anymore. So
You don't care if people think you're tough anymore.
yeah, I really don't care. So I'm getting. I've always had a deep fascination with outer space, so I'm basically just getting an outer space design half sleeve, which is really, incidentally, what the guy that I'm going to get this done basically said that was my only option, considering how much black I already have on my arm. If I was going to cover it up, he's like, yeah, space is about all you could do, dude. So you picked a good one. I was like, all right, cool. So
Nice.
cool.
I look forward to seeing the picture of that.
Yeah, accompanied with full nude, obviously.
yeah. See, I was going to say something about a dick thing, but then I was like, maybe it's too early.
Is it ever too early? It's kind of
never for me.
unexpected now. Exactly. Well, I mean, yeah. that's very exciting. I've had the busiest week since last week. It's just been chaos. Work's been one of those weeks where it's been super busy. I've had some like personal stuff going on, but I did buy myself a new bottle of rum today, and that filled me with excitement.
Nice. Are you drinking it now?
I'm not. I'm drinking coffee now because I'm so tired.
Mm.
But I'm so very tired right now.
Yeah,
but I did try
I'm
it
just on
earlier.
water. Is it good?
Are you guys? Man, I feel like a piece of shit because it's 5 hours earlier over where I am. You guys aren't drinking.
No, it's 8:30, and both of us were up very late last night, and we're both very tired now.
Yeah.
Both feeling it. And yes, so it's the Brewdog Botanical Rum. It's their new, I think also their only rum. Other rums are available, but it's really nice. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's very, very fruity, very sweet. It's what I would class as a dangerous rum.
Sounds delightful.
It doesn't taste. It's not got that harsh kick of a spirit, hence why it's dangerous.
Just too delicious. It gets you
It's 100%. It's so delicious that it is gonna ruin me. So, yeah. But anyway, we always seem to end the "How are we doing" on some sort of alcohol-related comment before we go into the news. Like the last 3 or 4 weeks is, "Oh, we're alcoholics. Oh, we're drinking alcohol. Oh, alcohol. Let's move on."
Just keep it going, man. Just keep it going. We're
So
comfortable here.
should we get into the news then? And not that there is much news this week. We have literally had to scrape the barrel.
Yeah.
We've gone from 1 week where there was so much news we had to have an extra episode to a second week where there's so little news. It literally took me about half an hour to find a single article. JB, do you want to kick us off with your news, mate? Because I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and what a segue, because not only is this just highly speculative, but it's also like 2 weeks old. But it's still, I thought it was interesting. So, the other day, Man of Steel actor Henry Cavill took to Instagram and posted what appears to be a reference to a new project. The photo sees him being worked on in a makeup chair on the set of The Witcher whilst checking out some sort of multi-page document with the camera having somewhat blurred the words. Cavill includes the caption "Secret Project" or just a paper with random words on it. Guess you'll have to wait and see. Happy Hump Day, all. So the punchline here is that the website Game Pressure have managed to use software to take away the blurring of the text and found some keywords, including Cerberus, Cerberus, Reaper, Geth, and Talizora. They soon figured out the text was taken from the Wikipedia entry for the third game in the celebrated Mass Effect sci-fi video game series. So basically what this article is saying is there's a few different things we can take from this. Either Henry Cavill is just a Mass Effect fan and was trolling the internet. 2 could be some type of live action Mass Effect thing, which what I know has been kind of in development for several years now. Or 3, that he could be lending his voice or likeness to the recently announced new Mass Effect trilogy. So again, nothing really solid there, but it was Mass Effect related, so of course I had to bring it.
Also, if I actually couldn't, now that I'm thinking about it, Henry would play a perfect male shepherd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely
he
would.
was good.
He would nail that role.
Yeah, I really don't think they should. I mean, it's the appeal to this series is so much involved in player choice, and while I would be excited and I would watch it, I don't think any live action adaptation of that series is going to be good.
No, it's gonna look like a poor man's Star Trek or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much that. Hopefully, then it's the third option, and it's his likeness and voice being used in the new game, which would also be amazing because
Even if he voiced male Shep,
he
the
just
next
has a great
game.
voice.
I'd be down for
Just
that.
a great voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, anything's better than fucking Freddie Prinze Jr. for fuck's sake.
Oh, I feel like we've just touched on something.
Yeah.
I just something. I wanted to like the James Vega character from Mass Effect 3, but I just something about the way Freddie Prinze Jr. I just wanted to, I don't know, fucking choke him till he died. I just didn't like it. I didn't like that voice performance.
Well, there you have it, everyone.
I feel better though. I feel better.
JB just got that off his chest. got that off his chest there. So from one speculative leak to Mike, do you want to head into your speculative leak?
Yeah, like you said, it was really scraping the barrel. Literally looked this up 5 minutes before recording. Watched the Elden Rings trailer leak that came out maybe last week or so, or within this last week. It's a really bad trailer, and it was meant to be for sort of business use only. It even says that like in the middle of the screen, and it's filmed on someone's camera phone, and like it's definitely genuine. But it just looks alright, but it looks like really early development, and it's kind of the reason why they've not really shown much, because it doesn't look amazing.
Because it's not ready.
Yeah, it's just this really unready game. Yeah,
it's literally the equivalent of like going into a baker's and then just showing you the young cooked dough. This is what your bread will look like.
All right, so I feel like an asshole for asking this, but I feel like I should know what Elden Rings is, and I don't. What is it?
So it's the potential sequel to like the Dark Souls series and
Oh wow, okay,
Bloodborne and the other one, Sekiro. It's like the
gotcha.
next thing, and it's also written by the Game of Thrones book writer George Martin.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin, working with the company that I've now completely forgotten the name of, From Software,
From Software.
to make their new game set in. Well, we're not sure if it's a sequel, if it's set in the same universe, or what it's going to be, but it's meant to be like their bigger, better version of everything they've done so far.
Yeah, it looks very
Wait.
Dark Souls and kind of open world-ish.
Has he finished the Game of Thrones books yet?
Oh,
Don't
no.
be silly.
And he's
He's
doing this now?
never. Yeah,
That-
I did see an article recently as well saying that he'd started something else as well. He was involved in something else. He's never finishing those books. It's just
Sure.
not happening.
and
If George is listening to this, mate, you're taking a piss.
he looks like he's gonna die any minute. Like that guy looks like a bucket of diabetes. He's
And
not gonna finish those books.
you're not the only person to think this. There is a bit of an ongoing concern amongst the Game of Thrones book fans that he will die before he finishes those books. That they will just never be. The series will just never end as far as the books are concerned because he will die before he finishes them.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
a
like
very real concern.
The ultimate plot twist, isn't it? Like,
You
Yeah,
know
I
what?
mean,
if I were him, that's what I would do. There's probably too much pressure to wrap it up in a way that's going to satisfy everybody. I'd much rather
Yeah.
just die and be like, hey, fuck you guys. Thanks for the millions of dollars.
I mean, arguably, he kills off every character anyway. So the ultimate ending being him dying, kind of makes sense.
The whole universe just collapsed.
Well, George R. R. Martin died, so that's the end of that. Yeah. So I managed to bring a new. It is a new story, but it's only really relevant if you're interested in one specific game. But I wanted to talk about it because it's dumb, basically, really dumb. So we spoke about the Avengers game quite a few times on this podcast.
I feel like this is just news for Ryan at this point, like the one person that's still playing this game.
I don't even think Ryan's playing it. I think even he's gone, oh, no.
Enough's enough.
Yeah, so it's as we know, it's in a very difficult position. It's not having the best of time, but they are working hard to try and give it that No Man's Sky / Destiny resurrection that it needs. So they recently announced the Hawkeye DLC, which I'll be honest, meh.
If your game's failing, don't bring Hawkeye in as like the saving grace.
Jesus fucking Christ.
The best thing is though, they've not brought in one Hawkeye, they've brought in two Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
Because the first DLC was Kate Bishop, and then they brought in the Clint Barton Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So they brought in two Hawkeyes as their first two DLC characters.
Jesus fucking Christ.
You know what they should have done? The Punisher. The Punisher I would have bought this game if they would have done the Punisher.
I mean, basically, JB, do anyone but Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Literally anyone.
Squirrel Girl.
I don't know how hyped
would have
Squirrel
been
Girl.
better than
Anyone would have been better. You could have bought Howard the Duck in at this point, and it would have been better than Hawkeye. But this isn't the problem. So we know there's lots of things wrong with the game. One of the big things that's wrong with it is the end game. It's built for games of service. The storyline is it's not super short, but it's quite compact. You can get through it quite quickly, and the focus is meant to be around the end game and getting your characters up to the end game level so they can take on the biggest and baddest, hardest missions. The problem with the Avengers Endgame, though, is it's trash. It's boring, and it breaks all the time. There's loads of glitches, and it's just not very rewarding or interesting to play. So, to fix this, or at least to start fixing this, they have released the first part of how they're going to make it better, which is by making it worse. They are
Cool.
basically
Good job, guys.
yeah. So for the PS5 launch, which is this month, it's getting all of its PS5 upgrades as alongside the Hawkeye DLC. But they're changing the end game XP. At the moment, it's a flat line or it's a diagonal line that goes up. So you just basically, it's really easy to level up, super easy. There's no curve where how it's supposed to curve. So every level you go up, it takes more XP to get to the next level. For some reason, they didn't do that when they first made the game. They just said, "Yeah, we'll just make it so it's like 100 XP for every single level, irrelevant of how high up you are." So for whatever reason, they'd never implemented this to start with, but they've now implemented a curve, meaning that the shitty endgame stuff they have, you now have to play more of to get your character to a higher level.
Nice.
So yeah,
the grind basically.
they literally have made it grindier, and they've changed the reward system so that, and this is a good move. You're getting less rewards now, but the rewards mean something. But that still doesn't change the process of getting the rewards is still a really boring, grindy process. So that it's literally like somebody has like they've spilled something all over the floor and then somebody's turned up with a feather duster to clean the sides. They're fixing the wrong problem. Like it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah,
Squirrel Girl.
they should have gone with Squirrel Girl. And also, like the fact that they never implemented a XP curve to start with just boggles my. Why would you not start with that? Surely, like, is that not just standard now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever. That game's fucked in it. So
It really is.
I still have hopes for this game. I knew leading up to it not to buy it, and it sounds like that was the smart move. But I don't know. I'm hoping that in a year's time, it's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
I hope that it has that Destiny turnaround.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's got a long way to go.
Yeah,
and it could.
Is definitely more the exception than the rule, but we have seen it happen before. So,
well, and I was this what I was going to say. In the last few years, we've seen it go both ways. You could have it go the Destiny route and turn itself around, or you can see it going the Anthem route, spend shitloads of time and money on it just for it then to go in the bin.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see.
R.I.P. Anthem.
But I know you guys already talked about that one. But yeah, that was disappointing.
Very disappointing. But yeah, that's pretty much the news this week. Yeah, so to everyone listening, sorry
about that.
for that disappointing, slightly depressing pile of news that we just had. But moving on to more exciting things then. Let's talk about what we've been playing because we've got a lot more to talk about there.
Yeah,
and I'm really interested to hear JB's views on this because I have never played this game. So JB, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So I like I had mentioned earlier, I finished Persona 5 Royal, and it was one of if not the best games I've ever played. I still don't know where it stacks. I'm still kind of digesting it, but a really awesome experience. And I wanted to just kind of go right into the backlog. So I ended up downloading Borderlands 3 because I had wanted to play it and I was playing it for a little bit, but I just kept talking to Sarah about how great Persona 5 was. And she was like, listen, man, if you're riding this high right now, because my plan was I was going to do Borderlands 3 and then I was going to play Persona 4 Golden because I had, I loved Persona 5 so much. I was like, yeah, I got to do this. And she's like, listen, man, if you're riding that high, just go download it right now and just start. And as soon as I did, Borderlands 3, I haven't touched it since. And it's awesome, man. It's really very similar formula to 5. It definitely, the look of it does feel a bit dated, but the writing and story is certainly on par with Persona 5, and the gameplay itself, the mechanics and the way it all works isn't really that far behind 5, which is impressive considering just how old this game is. Obviously, one of the main draws for Persona 5 is just how beautiful and gorgeous and stylish it is, and you do lose some of that just because this game is a little bit older. But honestly, it didn't take long to get used to that once I got into it, because the story and the writing, it's so good and it's so charming, and it just gets its hooks in you and it just rips you down into this obsessive path where it's all you want to do in your free time. And so that's kind of where I am. All that Persona 5 enthusiasm that I have it back again with a whole new game, and I am like 47 hours in, and I'm just excited because I know it's probably going to take me another 150 hours to get through it.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's definitely tougher than 5. And again, Sarah has so much background with this series, so she's been able to tell me, the genesis of the gameplay from 3 to 4 vanilla versus 4 golden versus 5 vanilla versus 5 royal. And so it seems like 5 royal is definitely the easiest of the entries so far, and so there was a little bit of a learning curve to go to 4, but thankfully it was 4 golden, so they still had some of those easier elements. But I think the toughest thing was going from a level 87 Joker down to a level 1, whatever this guy's name, I think his name is, because all my really cool abilities I had at the end of 5 I don't have now, and so I'm still trying to kind of
You get the joys of getting them all again.
Exactly, and that's part of the fun. It's like getting wrapped up in a game, because grinding can, I mean, that's why you call it a grind. It can be kind of a grind, and sometimes it really sucks. But I love it when you get into a game and you're so invested in the story that like the grinding becomes exciting, because you're like, oh, I got to get to this level so I can go do this thing, just because again, it got its hooks in you. So all that said, that was a lot of words. I'm enjoying it so far, if you couldn't tell.
So
Good. What
is Persona 4 and 5 like related? Is there any like lore that connects the two, or is it just completely separate?
So I believe, and Shane, you actually might be able to be better suited to answer this question, because I think you have more experience with the series than I do. But from what Sarah has told me, there is a connection. Apparently, these games exist within the same universe, but really, as far as any carryover from 3 to 4 to 5 or whatever, is really just more like fan service Easter egg things.
Right, yeah.
Like you can get apparently in Persona 5 you can get Risei's poster, who's a pop star in Persona 4, which I didn't fucking know that when I played Persona 5. I didn't care. I care now, so when I do Persona 5, my second playthrough, obviously I'm getting that Risei poster, but so like little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually played any of the others, but that's how I understand it, is that they're the same universe. And because of the way that the personas work, in that they're like in a separate, like mini reality alongside our reality, that they can kind of do it in the same universe without people ever knowing that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really easy for them to have them all in the same universe.
Yeah.
How old is it? What console? Because I know that Persona 5 was originally developed for the PlayStation 3. Where are we talking?
This was so Persona 4 was a PlayStation 2 game, and then Persona 4 Golden, I think, was only available on the PlayStation Vita and Steam. So I'm playing it on PC. Or yeah, I'm sorry, not Steam, PC.
I mean, talk about minimizing your audience there. The Vita and Steam.
Yeah, I think it's really strange, especially considering this series, or Atlas's relationship with Sony. I don't understand why Persona 4 Golden is not on the, like PlayStation Store. That seems really strange to me.
I think it did come to the PS3 at some point. I'm sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just asked Sarah. I was like, "Listen, I would like to play this, but I'd like to play it on the couch so I can cuddle, Yoshi and Mona, our dog and cat." So I was like, "Can you just, I don't know, can you put my computer on the TV?" And she was like, "Yes." You old fuck. That's how I asked.
Yes, you old fuck.
Can you put my computer on the TV? And she's like, "Yeah." So she hooked up my my Pro controller from my Nintendo Switch to the PC, and now I just pretend like I'm basically playing on the PS4.
Amazing. Also, I feel like your Persona 5 love what I'm hearing from you coming out of the back of Persona 5 is exactly how I felt when I played, because I played the original one before Royal. How I felt coming off the back, and literally as soon as that game finished, that week after, all I could think about was that I wish I could just delete the last month of my life and do it all again.
Yeah.
That's all I could think about for like a solid week. Was I just if I could just delete this entire game from my brain and just start from the beginning, that would be ideal.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what was so great about. I'm so glad that Sarah gave me that nudge. She's like, "Listen, man, just go. Like, don't wait. You're riding that wave. Go download Persona 4 Gold right now. Start playing it right now." And I'm so glad that I did.
Such a good
Nice.
attitude to have, because I struggle to like jump in from game to game. So like,
Yeah,
someone saying to you like, just go and play it and do it. Like, I think that's the. I think we all need that.
Yeah, it was a good kick in the pants.
definitely do. No, nice, JB. So, Mike, shall I cover mine? Because you've got quite a big review to go, haven't you? Mine's like a little mini touch on.
I mean, it's sure.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, bounce off the back of the JRPG element as well, because I've also been playing a JRPG this week. So Bravely Default 2 came out sometime in the last week or two. So I got that on rental on day one, and I've been playing it since, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. This is a series I've just completely slept on. I don't know anything about this whatsoever.
So it's your very standard JRPG stylings. It follows a storyline based around like elemental crystals that help control the world. You've got like your water crystal, your earth crystal. It's a big thing within a lot of JRPGs is like elemental crystals. And you're following a group that are trying to secure and make sure that these crystals don't fall into the hands of evil people, essentially. Long story short.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, pretty standard JRPG sort of storyline, but I'm sure there's going to be some twists and turns as the game goes on. The thing that does
start of the game, you're killing rats. End of the game, you're killing God.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing that Bravely Default does really well is firstly it's just stunning. It's a stunning game. All of the background art is like this really beautiful, like almost hand drawn looking artwork. It does make the characters look a bit weird because the characters aren't of that same animated style. They're animated differently, and it makes them stand out in a way that makes them almost look a bit cartoony. But it doesn't take away from the game, in my opinion. What does though is the voice acting, which is what can only be described as fucking hilarious. None of it fits. Like it's super stereotyped or super exaggerated to the point that it is just hilarious. There's a character you meet because I've only played, I think I've played 9 hours, but I've probably done a solid like 3 hours of just grinding and training. So I've only played a few hours of the actual story, and there's a character you meet quite early on that, no word of a lie, looks like Johnny Bravo, but in knight's armor. And he genuinely speaks like he's like, "All right, come here then, geezer. Come on, I'll sort you out." And I was like, "What the fuck is happening in this game? This doesn't make any sense." But a lot of the mechanics work really well. Some of the stuff they've done with the mechanics are really pleasing. So that you can speed up and slow down the battle time using the plus and minus buttons on the Switch controllers. So if you are doing just leveling, for example, and you're in an area where you know that actually you don't necessarily need to focus too much on how you're fighting, you can turn it up to like 4 times speed and then just plow through battles really, really quickly.
I think every RPG needs that, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just so useful. And the other thing they have is because they've got that speed thing in there, they have another element. So part of the gameplay in this is you have a move called Brave, or is it called Bravely? But basically, you have an ability where you can borrow move from up to 4 times. So you can go into a battle, you press the ZR button, and your character can stack 4 moves in a row, and then you can hit them with 4 attacks in a row. But then your character has to sit there and get through 4 enemy turns before it can attack again. So it's like a little extra tactical element they've added. But again, if you're in an area where you're training and you know that you're more powerful than everything there, you can. What I tend to do is just stack all of them up to maximum, hit them with like 16 attacks, kill everything, move on. But the way they've done it is you can literally press one button to repeat previous moves, and that includes all of the stacking. So all I have to do is press Y, and then it will just do 4 attacks, Y, 4 attacks, Y, 4 attacks. So when you're grinding, it just makes the whole grinding process so much simpler and so much easier.
That sounds like a really, really intuitive design that they did for that exact purpose. That's really smart.
Yeah, it's really smart, and it just makes the whole thing. It just doesn't feel so energy draining, knowing that I can just spend. I can do like 8 or 9 battles in 20 minutes if I'm in an area that I'm comfortable in. Which is the other reason that's quite important is because it uses like an old school job system. So you have different outfits and that are linked to different jobs, and those jobs dictate what moves you're able to do. So like the ones I start off with are like freelance, which is just your generalized job, white mage, black mage, vanguard, and a monk are like some of the starter ones.
Yeah.
And as you level, as well as leveling up your character, you have to level up the job to unlock more job moves. All of the jobs hit a maximum of 12, like level 12, and then that's when you unlock their specialty. But you can have a main job and a sub job, so you can then start to. It gives you a lot of like ability to then build your own characters. So you could have a white mage that has black mage abilities, for example, or you can have a hard hitting, really powerful like attacker that doesn't use any magic abilities, but then has their secondary as a white mage, so they could be a backup healer for when you need them. So you can really change it up and like move it around how you want. But to do that, you need to level up the jobs, which is that's where the grinding comes in, because obviously you don't necessarily want to level up your jobs against powerful enemies.
Yeah.
So, but as I say, I'm not far through it. This isn't really a full review, but I'm enjoying it so far. And in a couple of weeks, I'll give a final verdict on it once I've managed to play all the way through it. But so far, it is doing really, really well. And next week, I think I'm going to do the same sort of like early base touches, but on Yakuza, because I've just started that as well.
Shane, did you say that you had played the first one, Bravely Default?
Yes.
And how does it compare?
It's very similar, but you can tell it is basically like a refined version. They've not massively changed it up, but they've definitely refined everything to make it flow better, play better. I really struggled with the first one because the difficulty curve was quite tough in places, but I enjoyed it. This one, it feels like the difficulty curve has been not made easier, but it's definitely been set at a level where it's easier to understand early on, so that you can build up better. But yeah, it just feels like a much more refined. They've taken all the good parts of the first game and just really refined it. And then the second game, which was Bravely Second, just because they want to confuse things, they introduced a lot of like really good features in that Bravely Default 1 didn't have. And then this is definitely like a combination of the two. They've taken all the good bits from 1 and all the good bits from Bravely Second, and then created this, which is so far, in my opinion, out of all the ones I've played, the best in the series.
Nice. And I was trying to follow along when you were talking about the different outfits, but I got a little lost in the weeds. It sounds like a really cool game, but it also sounds like it's kind of complicated. Are you taking individual outfits out and then grinding with them?
Yeah, so you have, well, it's not outfits, it's jobs, but the job you have on dictates what outfit you're wearing.
Gotcha.
So you have a team of 4. Each one gets a main job and a sub job. So my team is currently set up as like I've got, say, like a vanguard who's like a heavy hitter and can take a lot of pain as his main job, and then his secondary job will be like a white mage. And then you're kind of working down. You can have them all set up, and as they level up those jobs, they access more abilities. So for the mage, for example, they'll start off with cure, but by the time they get to sort of like levels 10 and 11 in that job, they'll have like cure Arga, and they'll be able to heal much better. But once you've maxed out, not necessarily maxed out a job, but once you've got a job to a level as your main job, you can then set it as your sub job and have access to all of the abilities that it is at its level. Does that make sense? So you could have a level 12 Vanguard with a level 12 sub job of White Mage and have all of the White Mage abilities at your fingertips, as well as all of the damage dealing abilities of your main job. So it just gives you a lot more freedom to kind of build the characters the way you want to.
Yeah, it sounds quite fluid and interchangeable.
And just like fucking geeky and awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really simple in the way they've done it. Like it's not you haven't got to be like some sort of spreadsheet whiz to understand it.
But it doesn't hurt.
It never hurts. But no, it is really simple, and you get a lot of passive ability. So your passive abilities sit on you no matter what job you've got.
Yeah.
So one of the passive abilities, for example, is the White Mage, because obviously they're more of a. So the White Mage and the Black Mage both get different passive abilities that are the same thing. One's called solar powered and one's called lunar powered, and it basically means that when they're fighting at day or night, for every turn they get some MP back. So Black Mages get MP back overnight, and White Mages get MP back during the day. But you can. So if you maxed out a Black Mage and maxed out a White Mage and put both of those abilities on, you could have a black and White Mage that throughout the entirety of the day and the night consistently got MP back for every single turn because they were both solar powered and lunar powered. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so satisfying.
Super. That is one I'm working on at the moment, is a really powerful White and Black Mage. But yeah, it is satisfying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Bravely Default 2. So I'm looking forward to sharing some more info with that once I get a little bit more into it. But I've talked for ages, so Mike, hit us with what you've got. It's only meant to be a short one.
That was my fault. I asked follow-up questions.
No, it's absolutely fine, Jamie.
So I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild. I jumped back into that because it's just like my comfort game at this point. So it just lent perfectly with like my gaming habits, where I'll just sit and watch TV, but I'll also be playing games at the same time, and it's just that perfect sort of chill game where you can just kind of explore and roam around and try and find like other little secrets in that game. But I've been playing Breath of the Wild just because no other game has really like caught my attention. And then I heard about Curse of the Dead Gods, which is a sort of mix between Darkest Dungeon and Hades with like a little bit of Dark Souls. So it's essentially just a roguelike. Where you
do love a roguelike.
I do. I'm not very good at them, but I play them a lot. And this one's kind of got its teeth into me. So it's essentially, you play this guy and you just enter a cave. That's all the story you're given, and that's kind of one of the only downside of this so far has been there's no real story to keep you going. But there are.
I'm getting deja vu.
Yeah.
Get deja vu to was it an episode of Sarah where she was telling us about a game where you have to leave a cave?
Oh my god, that's right.
I remember.
I'm sure there was an episode where she was like, "Yeah, there's no story. You just start in a cave, and the first thing you have to do is figure out how to get out this cave." But anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a little bit of Dark Souls because you have this like stamina management element to it. We'll get sort of like little blocks of stamina. So you'll have like 5 points of stamina. So that equates to like either a secondary attack or a dodge roll or like a finishing move of like a primary combo. So you'll mash X or whatever it is and hit him a few times. But when you do like a third hit on that combo, it'll take a bit of stamina off you. Or every time you dodge or parry, it takes some stamina. So there's some real like what's the word? There's some
Every
real
one of those.
weight to the combat. Is what I was going for.
Yeah, so all I was just gonna say is every move that takes stamina a 1 bar move, or are there certain moves that take away like 2 or 3 bars of stamina at once?
No, so it depends on what weapon you're using because you get a different variety of weapons. So you have like a basic sword or a mace, or you'll have a dagger which is a lot lighter and you can do a lot more attacks, or you'll have a bow that every time you fire a shot, it's a piece of stamina, or you'll have like a big hammer which uses 2 bits of stamina but it does a lot of damage.
Yep, that makes sense.
So every sort of attack that you do has to be kind of calculated, and you have to really manage your stamina because you want to get sort of 5 attacks or 5 moves. But it's not turn based, which is what it sounds like. But it's a sort of a top down, almost Diablo-esque style. We sort of dungeon crawling, and as you're going through the dungeons, you can't really turn back once you've exited a room. The door will close behind you, so you're kind of stuck with your choices. There's no real way of going back on yourself. Which the one thing about this game is, as you progress, you don't actually get better. I mean, you can get improvements and upgrades to your weapons and things, but if you take damage or you exit a room or exit a dungeon into the next area, you'll take what I call like corruption points, and then once you hit 100 corruption points, you'll earn a curse or you'll get a curse, which is a negative effect. So the deeper you delve into this, like the more negative you have to deal with. So it's a lot like Darkest Dungeon in the way that you can keep going and going and going, but you'll take a lot of negative with it, and it'll become harder the more you progress, sort of thing.
So
so stressful, but
Yeah.
in the best possible way.
Yeah.
So these curses, are they like what type of, are these like status effects? Do they bring your stats down? What sort of curses are they? What are the negative effects? Like rough idea.
So yeah, it's basically a lot of negative effects. Sort of, you'll take more damage in the dark because so lighting plays like a crucial part in the game. So you will take more corruption damage and corruption points in the dark, or you'll sorry, but yeah, you'll take more damage in the dark and things like that, and yeah, the closest comparison would be to Hades, in the way that it sort of lacks that story element as well to sort of drag you through. That was one of the issues that I had. Was like it doesn't seem to be any kind of reason to be there. Yeah, so it's just it's good. Like the gameplay is great, and it's really sort of got me on the gameplay element, but there's no story. So it's sort of, yeah, it's not quite amazing as many people sort of hitting it with. Like it's got a 9 out of 10 on Steam and 82% on Metacritic.
Does it feel like one of those games where they've sat down and built like this? They built all the mechanics and the gameplay, and then gone, yeah, shit, we should probably make this into a story, so it's got some sort of flow to it,
I think
as
so,
opposed to
yeah.
writing the story and then building the game around that story.
It seems that way, yeah. But I mean,
So
that. Sorry, go on.
I have 2 questions, and the first one's just kind of weird, but it's just out of my own curiosity. So when you're playing your Switch, but you also have the TV on in the background, how are you handling audio? Are you having like the TV is just like the audio from the TV show or whatever's coming up from the TV speakers, and then you have like one headphone plugged in from your Switch?
Depends on the game. Like with Zelda, I'll just sort of have the game muted, or on very low, and then I'll just be concentrating more on on the TV show, which I've been watching 24 at the minute, which doesn't take a lot of concentration. But
Basically, every episode somebody's sweating.
yeah,
That's all you need to know. Someone's sweating.
yeah, essentially.
And so, I guess the other question I had is just because I know how much you love games with a really gripping story. Do you feel like this current thing where you're more into a thing where you're like just fucking around on your Switch while watching a TV show, do you feel like this is a phase, or do you feel like this is more what type of thing you're gravitating towards?
Yeah, I mean it's something that I do quite often, and I'll sort of sit there looking at my game library like I really want to play something, but I'm just because me and Ellie have our TVs like next to each other. We usually have headphones on. If I'm really into the game, story wise, but there's been nothing really to grab me.
Wait, that's so great. You want to look for insight into how to make a relationship work. Everybody, like each person has their own TV.
Yeah, basically.
You watch what you watch. I watch what I watch.
Yeah.
We can sit here together.
Yeah, that's how we work. And it works, man. It works.
I can just see the blog on it now. How to make a relationship work. Don't fucking share anything. Get your own shit.
Anyway, sorry, Mike.
But yeah, so I'll just this game has been kind of like that toilet game where you'll just take the Switch to the toilet and like play for a few minutes and then you'll come back and do whatever. But
get some hemorrhoids, level up a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
so what?
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, what are you scoring it? Because you mentioned about it's got some good scores. Are you scoring it similarly?
Yeah, I'd say it's around 8 out of 10, but
pretty solid.
Yeah, very solid.
Yeah, like the gameplay is great and it's a lot of fun. Although it is stressful, but it is very satisfying when you do like kill a boss. So far, I've killed 2. There's a boss in each sort of dungeon that you go to. But yeah, it's satisfying. It really is. Especially when you start doing like a lot of damage and you get some decent upgrades and stuff. Like it's satisfying, but it lacks that story for me, and that's super important. For me to really love a game.
Yeah, sometimes if the gameplay itself is satisfying enough, you can sometimes just like forego or at least forgive the lack of story.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing with my score of like 8 out of 10.
Well, prime example is Tetris.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the most satisfying games ever made.
Yeah.
That has no story. Well, I'm sure it does have a story, just no one knows it.
But yeah, that's about it. That's my review. Like I'm not super deep into it yet. But I've played enough. I've played enough to give it the score that I've given it anyway. But yes, that was me this week.
There you go.
A lot of TV, very little games, but yeah.
Well, there we go. For everyone listening, you've got 3 new reviews this week. 3 games we've never spoken about before.
You're welcome, world.
Which is that's rare for us.
Not even a mention of Skyrim.
Damn it! You had to ruin it. Had to ruin it. I'm surprised you didn't write it in the next topic, to be fair. I was half expecting it.
The topic of reboots.
Yeah, so moving on to our third topic then, our final topic of this week. So we're talking reboots. So we're gonna, as per usual, we'll do the normal round robin, go around and discuss a reboot each. think we've got around 3 each to go through, plus some honourable mentions. So yeah, what game or game series or franchise do you guys think needs a reboot? How and why? So JB, hit us for your first one. Hit us with your best shot.
All right, so my first one, I had actually mentioned this game a few guest episodes ago. It was called Colony Wars, and this is for the original PlayStation. It was a space combat simulator, and it wasn't that really different or original from other space combat simulators of the time, like Wing Commander, as far as the gameplay goes. But the thing about it, it was really cool because it was, obviously an older game being on the original PlayStation. And kind of the concept of it was there was the League, which is what you were in, and the Navy, which represented Earth. And you were still a human, but basically you represented colony interests, and the Navy represented Earth's interest. So it had a very, I guess the easiest comparison will be Empire versus the Rebel Alliance type of thing. But Earth was the Empire. And so you were kind of like a terrorist, but in spaceships. So it was okay. But it was really cool because in the first game you were, like I said, you were in the League, so you were kind of the rebels, and you beat the Navy out of this particular sector. And then in the second game, I'm gonna give some spoilers away here, but the game's like 100 years old, so get over it. In the second game,
Reasonable.
you were in the Navy, so you were in the bad guys from the first game. Now you're in their perspective, which I thought, at the time, if you think about just the way they kind of built it, that was kind of that's a cool element, I guess. It's not crazy to think about in today's terms, but whenever this game came out, like I said, 100 years ago, it's kind of cool that they changed perspectives over to the next sequel. And then the really interesting thing was you get about 40% through Colony Wars 2, and all of a sudden this alien race shows up that has been attracted to your location because of all the warring that's been happening between the Navy and the League. And then all of a sudden the Navy and the League halfway through this game have to team up to take out this alien threat. And I mean, as like I said, it was an older game, and so just it doesn't seem like that crazy of a twist now. But back when I was fucking 13 or 14, I was like, wait a minute, there are fucking aliens now? Like now we're teaming up? I don't know. It seemed like a big gamble, and the fact that they built this world over a series of entries, I feel like those kinds of investments in the story, I think if they applied that kind of chutzpah as far as their writing is concerned to current generation technology, I think that this could be a really, really good series. I think VR capability would be cool, but I don't think VR exclusive is a good idea just yet. And I would like more of an ability to interact with crew members kind of like out of a cockpit area. And one of the things that's been really disruptive, I've been trying to get back into Star Wars Squadrons. I still don't have a VR headset, but one of the things that I feel like is just really awkward and stilted and weird is that in between the missions,
awful, isn't it?
yeah, it's so clearly optimized for VR that if you're not in VR, it's super fucking weird and stilted and it's just really awkward. And so I would rather have something that, like, hey, if you're in the cockpit, if you want to be in VR, that's cool. But in the meantime, if you want to get to know your crew members, here's the third person perspective where anybody, regardless of what system you have, can walk around and, get to know each other. I don't fucking know. But I do think this particular series would be good for a reboot. I know a lot of people don't know about it, but it would be a good one.
I mean, what I just heard is that The Last of Us copied Colony Wars with its switching perspectives.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Holy
I was
shit.
just keeping quiet the whole time.
Oh my god, I was Abby that whole time, and then all of a sudden aliens showed up, and Ellie and I were like, what are we going to do about this now? Oh my god, yeah, wow. Take that, Naughty Dog.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got much to say on Colony Wars because I've never heard of it or played it. So
yeah, most people haven't, but for me, it was when people talk about like their favorite entries on different versions of consoles. Everybody has their favorites on PlayStation 2, 3, etc. But yeah, for the original PlayStation, Colony Wars is up there for me. But a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't know what that is, but I loved it.
It's something I've always heard of, but I feel like I've seen it in like like flicking through a cheat book or something. I'm like, I've seen the title and been like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll check
Mhm.
that out, but I never have. So
Yeah,
it's cool to hear your
I
views on it.
yeah I loved what got me into it was because I loved the Wing Commander on Super Nintendo or SNES, as you guys like to call it. Wing Commander was kind of my entry into space combat and like space combat simulators. And then also, I don't know if you guys ever played the Super Star Wars games for also SNES, but they had some really cool like the later levels.
They had
You
like some space flight stuff, didn't they?
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it was just kind of like a side scroller shooter where you were either Luke, Chewbacca, or Han.
Yeah.
But then towards the end there were always those like the Death Star run or whatever in the X-wings, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of what got me into that. And then Wing Commander, I was like, wait, there's a whole game that's just space shit. That's fucking cool. And that's why when Colony Wars came out, I was like, oh yeah.
Wow. Mike, what are you following that up with?
Soul Reaver, bring that shit back. That game is so fucking good back in its day. I had this like
I can't remember this game. Like, I
What?
remember the name and I can picture the cover,
Yeah.
but I don't remember any of the game.
So it's all steeped in like a vampire, like lords. This whole world of like vampires, and this Legacy of Cain as well, which is also related. He's the dick that pulls your wings off because he's the jealous little bitch right at the start. But it's this sort of Metroidvania style game in this sort of explorable world, kind of like how Dark Souls is, where you'll sort of get to a certain area and then unlock another area. But yeah, I think the potential for like a reboot of this and to bring this back is huge. It was so popular at the time, and I just remember playing it as a kid, and you could sort of grab all weapons off enemies that they drop like spears or something, and you could like fight them with it, or you could like throw them and like impale them as well. Like we don't have enough impaling, in my opinion, in video games.
Bring back impaling.
Yeah, bring back vampires and impaling.
It's cool though to hear you talk about this because I remember I think it was Final Fight for the Super Nintendo, like that the first time or actually no, Double Dragon for the original Nintendo, whenever you like the people that walked around with a whip and then you punched them a couple times and then they would drop the whip and you're like, oh my god, I can pick up their whip. There's something that's so fucking cool about that.
Yeah. Well, it had all these like different weapon types and stuff like that, and you had all these cool abilities because you were literally a zombie, not a zombie, a vampire, like thrown into this whirling vortex of like kill you the fuck up, and you died, but you got like revived by this, this other being as basically as like his servant to like breathe souls for him and like take souls, but you kind of get revenge on all the vampire lords. And then there was also this cool mechanic of switching between sort of the ethereal world, like the spirit world, and then like the reality. And I think
I remember that.
Yeah, I think that modern day graphics like would just be insane. It'd be so cool. But yeah, that's me. Just bring Soul Reaver back. If you don't know what Soul Reaver is, go find it, play it.
You know what's funny
It's
is I have Shane's exact. So it was really interesting to hear you talk about this because I also know this game by its cover, but I never played it.
Yeah, he's got that cool like wraparound scarf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I played it once, and I vividly remember the whole thing where you can change from like the two planes or dimensions or whatever it was they refer to it as, but I can't remember any other part of the game.
Yeah, I mean,
there
was a lot of like platforming and very Tomb Raider style of like climbing around and things like that and platforming. But yeah, there was a load of combat as well, and the combat was quite hard, similar to Dark Souls. So just mix that all together, give me more vampires.
I also note that you've made a note in the notes. Vampires need to make a comeback, which I 100% agree with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we've been stuck on zombies for a long time now. Like vampires and those sort of things were like really big for ages, and then it went to zombies. And I feel like we've been stuck on zombies for like 10 years. The zombies have been
now.
the go-to monster for games for a while now.
It's been too long.
It has been too long.
One of the interesting things hearing you talk about this, Mike, was that this mechanic in Soul Reaver, which is obviously a very old game, going back and forth in between the worlds. There was this one game which I'm still trying to get my PS5, but I'm not going to bend over backwards. I'm just going to wait till it's easily available. Because come on, Sony, like this is ridiculous. We all want it. Like
Sort your shit out.
Enough, yeah. Make the shit so that I don't have to. Like, I'm not trying to beat bots on the internet. I just want to go to a retail store and be like, oh, cool, they have it. Let's buy it today.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm still kind of on the fence about an Xbox. But there is this game coming out, which is an Xbox exclusive called The Medium. It's a horror game, and
Yes.
one of the really cool elements is talking about going back and forth between the real world and in this like ghost world or something.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh, that sounds like a really innovative idea. And here you are talking about the whole game. And like, it just goes to show you, man, you can miss so many different things and sleep on so many different things just because there's so many fucking games to play.
Oh, so many.
Yeah. But that medium reminds me of Constantine, the movie, if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a great fucking movie.
It really was, yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that this new interest where like everybody just loves Keanu Reeves, maybe they'll be like, hey, we should probably make another Constantine.
Yeah, no, that probably not. I don't think it was Keanu Reeves that is the reason they're holding back that film.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably other things. It's not the case that they've gone to Keanu Reeves and he's gone, nah, I don't really want to do it. I feel like there's probably some sort of writing clashes or companies not wanting to pay for it sort of thing in the background.
Yeah, I suppose. But he was great. He was great in that movie. Yeah, that was not a bad movie.
I don't feel like Keanu Reeves is a particularly good actor, but he's just good in all of his films, isn't he? Like,
yeah, he's neither good nor bad. He just exists. But when he's in a film that suits his style, he's really good in his specific style.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. So, hold on 1 second. My dog is about to but right. Going back to sort of what JB was saying about a game that would benefit from today's technology, and this one is just an absolute no-brainer for me. And I feel like I've mentioned it before on a previous episode. Time Crisis.
Oh man,
VR. Why is this not a thing?
It definitely should be.
Such a good pick.
Such
a good pick.
It's such a perfect title to reboot right now. You've got like 6 or 7 different VR headsets, multiple different like VR gun controllers. Now is the time to bring back Time Crisis. Bring it back. New graphics, new storyline. Even bring back the co-op mode because that was the best.
There was a storyline?
Yeah, there's a massive storyline. To be fair, Time Crisis is still going, but only in arcades. I think they're on Time Crisis 6 or 7 now.
Yeah.
Because me and Max went and played it like 2 years ago. We went down to somewhere, Brighton, for the day and just played Time Crisis all day because that's what you do when you want to drive like 50 miles away just to play Time Crisis on the beach.
When you're an adult and you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Exactly. But bring it back to home consoles. It's been gone too long. I mean, when was the last Time Crisis game? Was PlayStation 2, and that was Time Crisis 3. We haven't had a Time Crisis since the PlayStation 2. What the fuck is going on? Bring back Time Crisis in VR. It's a no-brainer. There's not much to say on it. Just do it. Just make it happen.
Time Crisis is one of the first PS1 games I ever played as well. Like, at
It's
home,
also one
like,
of the greatest PS1 games you ever played.
it still holds up now.
It's I literally have 2 G-Cons strapped to my wall in the spare room because I still like playing the original Time Crisis games now. We went out and bought an old school TV just so I could play them. Got a PS2 set up with 2 G-Con two G-Con guns, a G-Con 2 and a G-Con 1. And they are in gun holsters that I've built and screwed to the wall. So
Wow.
I've got a proper like homemade arcade system set up in my office. That's how much I love Time Crisis, and they just need to just do it. It doesn't make sense that it hasn't already happened. Why are they sitting on this? I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, as I say, there's not much to say on it. Time Crisis, do it. VR, it'll be the best.
Agreed. You heard
I
it here
just love
first.
I love the outfits they pick for the protagonists of those games.
Oh,
With
definitely bring back the co-op mode where one of you's all dressed in red and one of you's all dressed in blue, and then you're chasing around a guy who looks like a cross between James Bond and a vampire.
Like, look like we got to shoot these missiles out of the air with our pistols. Oh well.
When it's like you're about to fight a tank, and it's like, well, if you shoot that tiny spot there, we'll be able to blow this tank up.
You know what's
I
really
love.
funny is it's very humbling too, because I've played Time Crisis in the arcades several times with Sarah. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, and I have all of this Marine Corps training as far as like marksmanship and things like that. And dude, she beats the shit out of me in Time Crisis every single time. I always die before she does, and then any of those like cool moments where you have that 7-second window to get as many of the shots as you possibly can. Yeah, she just whoops my ass every time. It sucks. It's kind of awesome at the same time.
Just to know that she can protect you if anything went down.
Exactly.
If anything goes down in the future that involves light guns, you're all good.
I'll throw her a pistol and a hat that she can put on slightly askew to the side so that she looks super cool.
Yes. And on that note, what is your second pick, JB?
Second pick is Twisted Metal. I don't know if you guys.
Game.
Yeah, so good, right? So I'm very well versed in Twisted Metal 2. I played a little bit of Twisted Metal 1 and a little bit of Twisted Metal 3. Didn't like those as much, but I know that there have been other entries, and some of them have worked pretty well. I think Twisted Metal Black for PS2 was probably the last good Twisted Metal game.
I think Black is the only one I've played, Twisted Metal Black.
Oh, well, I would recommend, you can get the original PlayStation Twisted Metal 2 on the PlayStation Store. I think it's, like three quid, as you guys would call it or whatever. But, and it would take a while to get used to the controls, but once you got used to them, that Twisted Metal 2 was the apex of this series as far as just the simple gameplay element of we're going to drop you up on a map. There's, up to 8 or 12 other cars, go kill each other. And I think that they could do the cool thing about modern day technology is they could do that very easily. They could replicate that formula for single player, local or multi, or online, like multiplayer co-op would work really well, or PvP, but give players the choice. Like, do I want to play against other people, or do I just want to kind of go with the story and have this, destruction derby with machine guns and missiles and all this kind of cool shit? Just bring back that nice simple formula. Stop trying to get really cute with well, it has to be multiplayer and you'll have 3 cars, but you could recruit up to 6 other people. Like, no, fuck that. Just let me get on a motorcycle, like Mr. Grimm, the little motorcycle guy, and just like run through people. And
I mean,
let me do my own thing, but in the Twisted Metal universe, whether I want to be online multiplayer or when I play locally, just give me a good Twisted Metal game.
So the only thing that I think.
Go on.
Sorry, after you, Mike.
I was just going to say.
I was just going to
say. I'll go.
God damn it!
What Jamie's trying to say is it should be a battle royale with a season pass.
Well, I was actually about to say. I think the only way you could accept a Twisted Metal multiplayer, in my opinion, is if it was like they did like the Rocket League style and just completely made it free to play initially, and just said, look, here's a free Twisted Metal game, but there's loads of shitty cosmetics for people to spend their money on. People do that shit, but have all, like you say, have all the characters unlocked, so you haven't got to pay for characters because that's lame. No one likes paying for characters.
I don't know, man. I would just, and you're right. The sad thing is that's probably the best way that it could work. But like Twisted Metal 2, man, every single character had their own story, and
Yeah,
it was really dark and fucked up, and really no matter what way if you beat the game, you still kind of lost just because the story was so dark. And the cool thing was it had this great addictive gameplay, but really just very simple graphics. The cutscenes were like comics, just still images with a voiceover, and that would be fine too if they wanted to keep it that simple, but just bring it back so that it's kind of like that old, like the fun thing about when you played Street Fighter 2 is E Honda had his own ending, Ryu had his own ending,
Yeah.
Johnny had their, you know what I mean? Like, and I loved that, and yeah, the multiplayer thing it could work, but I would rather that be more of a side thought, and
Oh no, I
really
agree.
give us back that ability to have a story, but in this destruction derby type of
I think
setting.
the only real issue there is even Twisted Metal in itself it's a rare entity to have a game that's focused mostly on driving and combat, where every character has a story anyway. Like that's quite a rare entity in itself. Even in the old days, that's still quite a rare entity. But I completely agree with you. Although the only character I can remember is Sweet Tooth, but I completely remember Sweet Tooth was the best.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
With his fucking ice cream truck death machine.
So isn't that the ice cream truck? Isn't that in Rocket League as a drivable car?
I think so. Yeah,
I'm sure it is. I mean,
I think there's like a throwback to it.
Yeah, the link is already there, isn't it? Like it's just make it
so.
It's so.
Just make it so. Well, I mean, they've just made that Destruction All Stars game. All you've got to do is put weapons on cars and make it really fucking dark and add a storyline, and you're there.
We're not asking for much.
No, gee, we're only asking for about 6 to 12 months worth of development time. We're not asking for much here.
Yeah, get off your asses, video games.
No, that's a solid choice. I'm fully on board with that. Fully on board. Mike, what's your second?
Ape Escape. So,
Classic.
Yeah, I don't know if either of you have ever played Ape Escape, but it was just about
yes.
Yeah, it was a game where you just catch monkeys in a net, and you had all these like wacky gadgets and shit. But
not just monkeys though; there were monkeys with alarms on their head.
Yeah.
Fucking sirens.
I was skeptical until that last detail because I haven't played this one, but now that I know that
they had like red flashing, like sort of like police lights on their head.
Just like in the jungles.
You should at least look it up. It's such like it's just a crazy fun game, and I think if they brought it out for PlayStation, I think we mentioned this last week, didn't we? The potential of like the DualSense controller integrations with this game as well is like it's up there, as being one of the fun ones. But I think with me recently playing like a shit ton of Breath of the Wild again, make it open world and make it sort of like just a fully explorable world. We just gotta go and catch all of the monkeys and make it like the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild. We just have to go out and find them and explore and.
So Breath of the Wild, but all you're doing is finding.
I think that's just my new thing. It's like Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon. Like Breath of the Wild, but Ape Escape.
Yeah, I can see it. See it.
I mean, I can understand the potential of that you referenced regarding the DualSense controllers, but this also sounds like a really good pooping game. To your earlier point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can see it.
I don't know. You might want this one on the Switch.
Yeah,
definitely.
all over that.
But yeah, just bring Ape Escape back, even if it's just another Ape Escape. Just bring it back. I need more of that game.
Just bring it back.
Give
I
it
beg
to
you.
me. But PlayStation have the rights to this as well, so they're just sitting on this and not
Just
doing
do
anything
it.
with it.
Just do it already, PlayStation.
Just being selfish.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna have to send this episode to Sony afterwards and be like, look, can you just make all these things happen?
Well, it's the same with Xbox. They just sat on Rare and all of the Rare IPs that they've got, and they're doing fuck all with them. Like, bring another Banjo Kazooie while we're at it, and Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah, just this. I mean, so much stuff they need to just bring back. And so like
Jimmy, that the Hut didn't go on there, you know?
I figured I slid it right under there.
just slid it on the radar.
So shout out Camp.
My second one, it kind of is getting a reboot, but not the way that I want it to. So I don't know if you guys ever played the old Medal of Honor games.
Oh, this is such a good pick, Shane.
So
good quality games.
Yeah, they were fantastic games. And the thing that I loved about Medal of Honor, and I don't know what your two's view on this is, obviously, like, you've got the usual Call of Duties and the Battlefields, and they always touch on the core, like, infantryman standard battles that we all know about. But Medal of Honor never did that. It was always about the behind enemy lines, like the sort of underground Jewish resistance that were fighting back. And it was almost like a little bit more stealthy and a little bit more secretive.
Yeah.
And it touched on a side of the war that no other war games really ever touch on.
Just on the note of that stealth, there is a level or a couple of levels in the latest Call of Duty, the Cold War game, that just really hit the same notes as sort of the infiltration levels in Medal of Honor, like
nice,
almost exactly the same.
That's good. I mean, that's pleasing to hear.
Yeah,
but I know they're bringing back Medal of Honor in a VR format, but just bring back Medal of Honor with like today's technology, where we've seen it with COD. Like, bring it back with the enhanced graphics, the DualSense technology. And I'm not saying, because Medal of Honor, it's one of its big things was always about being historically accurate. I'm not even saying have a story that is historically, like, keep the game as historically accurate as possible, yes. But the story doesn't have to be a true life story. Just create a story around, go back to the roots of being an underground, behind enemy lines resistance, because there's so much they could do with that. So many areas they can touch on that don't get explored through the standard World War II. I'm an infantryman who drops on D-Day and goes through the normal pathway. Just bring that back. I just love Medal of Honor.
It was such a good series.
I think games like COD, Battlefield have a bit of a stranglehold on the shooter genre at the minute. And
they do, but I think World War II games have ultimately died out at the moment. Like, everybody's fed up with them, and I think it's because most of them follow that format of the infantryman replaying those battles that we've played 1,000 times. Whereas give Medal of Honor, almost give it the Wolfenstein treatment. Not the same gameplay, obviously, but where they rebooted Wolfenstein, and like they rebooted it in such a way that it worked. Like, give it that reboot treatment where they're rebooting everything and then just having a nice fresh story, but again taking it to a different side of the war that we haven't seen before, taking us through different formats and because with today's graphics as well, they could do some I'm not saying be dark for the sake of being dark, but we all know that there were a lot of elements of World War II that were absolutely heart-wrenchingly dark, and they could really cover them in a really well. I mean, you look at The Last of Us, for example. If you imagine that, but set in World War II, and like discovering being a Jewish resistance officer coming across the first known prison camp, for example, like things like that they could touch on, that they could just do such a good job with and really tell that story.
But who's the IP line with at the minute? Is it EA?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up because I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's
Um,
making the new one. But
yeah,
I
'cause
mean, and the other reason I'd see this is so important is because you see, and I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, obviously, because it's not the case of everyone. But you see so many kids today that don't know a lot around World War II and don't know the importance of some of the stuff that had happened because they don't. It's not in the media they watch. It's not in the films they watch. It's not in the games they play. We'll start telling some of those. As I say, even if it's not a true story, you can still tell a very accurate story.
yeah,
So yeah,
totally.
that's my pick. I'm just having a look now to see who owns it.
I'm sure it's EA.
I mean, if it's EA, then we're lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lost cause.
It's a very lost cause. But while I look this up, JB, what's your third game, mate?
So third game is Castlevania, and
Yes.
this to me was the easiest one. As soon as I heard the topic for this particular episode, this was the first one that came to mind. And honestly, I think it's due for a reboot simply after watching the anime on Netflix, and I would base this game entirely off of that show.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the writing in that show is so good and so snappy and so smart and just so funny and engaging that I think if they bringing that over into a game would be really, really good. And the cool thing about it is that I feel like there are so many different elements um, from a gameplay mechanics standpoint that could work. I think turn-based would work really well. I
See,
think if you had
that was like a really interesting view because I never would have put Castlevania as turn-based.
but yeah, and neither would I. But if you think about the way, particularly that show, basing
Yeah.
it off of that show, if you started with Alucard, Trevor, and Sifa, three very different types of fighters,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's where and it's funny because turn-based games are not like I never liked them 6 months ago, but after playing Persona now, I'm like, oh wait, turn-based could actually I see the appeal now.
Yeah, so you're
But
just
the cool
like,
thing is,
oh, this game, but with Persona.
yeah, exactly. So
Castlevania,
but
but
Persona, basically. But no, but yeah, I think turn-based could work. I think that if you wanted to do an abilities wheel like the only other game I ever talk about all the time, Mass Effect, something like that, where you could pull, if you were playing from Trevor's perspective, but you could pull up Sifa or Alucard's abilities, and use them at your disposal, or doing a straight up character swap like in the Final Fantasy VII remake, where you're Trevor 1 minute and then you press a button and now you're Sifa and now you have her suite of abilities. And I think that, like I said, that would just be where you're starting with those three different players, and then there's a lot of different interesting characters that we've met so far in these first few seasons. And I think that having a Castlevania game where player choice would have a major role, as far as there's from that series that we've seen. You both have watched it, I'm assuming.
oh yeah, it's fantastic.
So there's just a lot of imperfect allies that you could come across along the way, as far as like you could align with the religious sect or with the demon worshiper. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that you could go in the lore, and even relationship building within the party. Some choices that you make might appeal more to Sifa versus Alucard versus any other of the allies that you make, and I feel like that. I don't know. I feel like this could be a really deep game. To just and kind of get it as far away from that hack and slash as possible, and make it a really like RPG heavy Castlevania series based entirely off of the anime.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Like I think I've mentioned in a previous episode that Castlevania, but Dark Souls, just have this huge castle to explore and just make it like really tense combat, like like Souls or Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they go hand in hand, but I really like this like turn-based element and have it entirely based on the anime.
Yeah, and honestly, that I feel like that's a pretty far departure from previous Castlevania entries, but that dynamic between those characters
Yeah,
has
all
been
about
so good. And that's why I just like I feel like any Castlevania game, if they ever do bring it back, you can't have that sole protagonist anymore. You're
yeah,
gonna have to have
Yeah,
these companions just because the show's done such a good job of it.
yeah. Like that showed us a great job of like relationship building
Hmm.
and getting to know those characters. So yeah,
Yeah, it's just this great show based off of a video game. So let's make a great video game based off of a great show based
yeah.
off of a great video game. You know?
The circle is complete.
Yeah.
yeah. No, that is a solid shout.
Yeah,
Solid,
definitely.
Mike. Before you go on to your third one, so EA do own Medal of Honor, and the most recent one, the VR one, is actually being made by Respawn. The
Hmm.
the fucking studio that would be perfect to make a proper Medal of Honor game, having made Titanfall 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Wow.
But yeah, that's it. Interestingly, I didn't know that the series was created by Steven Spielberg, but actually now it makes sense.
yeah, it does make a lot of sense. But yeah,
Like the man
fantastic
the man
director
who
to
tells the most the man who tells the most like other side of World War II stories
yeah.
makes a game that tells the other side of World War II stories.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I know we've already moved past Medal of Honor, but one thing that I really appreciated about that game is that I feel like at least before I played Metal Gear Solid, the Medal of Honor, I think the first Medal of Honor game was the most cinematic game I had ever played. And that actually makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't go back onto that. Mike, what's your third one?
Time Splitters. Time Splitters needs to come back. It's one of those games
It
I
does.
spent literally hundreds of hours playing as a kid. It had this great like multiplayer. It's kind of similar to how GoldenEye played. It was very similar in terms of like gameplay mechanics and stuff. But it was just had all these crazy characters, and there was monkeys. There was a duck man. There was like a guy with
Noticing a pattern here.
yeah, just games with monkeys. Yeah, it's just such a great shooter. It was so far ahead of its time. Like it had the original sort of zombies thing that's really famous now in Call of Duty games. Like it just had that as like a little side mode. We'd have zombies breaking through like doors, and you just have to shoot wave after wave after wave. Like in my eyes, they created that, and then just Call of Duty was just like, yeah, that's cool. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Like I was playing that. I was playing COD Zombies before COD Zombies even existed in Time
Okay,
Splitters.
hipster.
Yeah, before it was cool.
One of the things that Time Splitters did amazingly, and I used to play this so much, was its difficulty levels for each level.
Yeah.
Particularly, and I want to say it was either 2 or 3. I'm thinking it was 3. I think it was Future Perfect. But I used to play it at my friend's house, and we used to spend months, like literally a solid 2 months on like one level at a time, because the difficulties of the higher difficulties of it, like the hard and extra hard modes, you would have to literally memorize where every single enemy was.
Yeah.
Because it didn't just make the enemies harder, it threw in loads of extra objectives. So it was like you physically can't get spotted, or like cameras cannot detect you. And but it was made in such a way that it was possible. And every
Yeah.
time you played that level, you would get an extra like 5 or 6 steps forward, and you're like, "Well, I know I can do it. I know I can do it." And you just used to spend months just literally learning and repeating the same level over and over and over.
Like I know the second one specifically had so many like challenge runs, and there was just so much content in that game. It's just ridiculous. It had all these different modes, all different variations of the modes, and then there was challenge runs, time attacks, things like that. There was just so much in there to keep you going. But it was very like arcadey, and with the shooting mechanics and stuff, and the gameplay in general was very like arcadey, and there was always seemed to be like a timer at the top of the screen, so you were like running through quickly and stuff. But I don't
It was,
like.
but it.
Go on.
Ed, I was just gonna say it also did a really good job of like not necessarily mocking, but covering so many different genres. Like I
Yeah,
remember you'd go the first mission on one of them where it was like it was basically a spy mission in Siberia, and you had to like sneak into a military base and steal some like data. And then
yeah,
2 or 3 missions on, you'd be having a shootout in a futuristic neon Japan.
yeah.
Like it
Just
did such a good job.
just the whole premise of it, like just there's so much potential to like go to these different worlds and explore all the different themes and stuff. Like you could literally like drop in on D-Day on one of the missions, and then the next you'd be in space or whatever.
Yeah, so good.
But I think like if it was just sort of very similar game mechanics, I don't think it would hold up. I think they'd have to give it that sort of over the top treatment, similar to like Doom Eternal or
Yeah, it would have to be a reboot as opposed to a remake. Like if you remade that game, it wouldn't work, but a full reboot would work if it's done well.
To go over the top with like the gameplay mechanics and the guns and stuff. Or maybe like a character shooter type thing, like Overwatch in a way, but not as multiplayer heavy.
Yeah, it'd have to
still arcadey, but has that feel of the Overwatch mechanics, like shooting wise.
Yes.
But yeah, that was my last pick.
I want it.
Give it to me.
I want it now.
I never played Time Split. I was just kind of sitting back listening to you guys talk about it. It sounds like a really, really fun game.
Oh, it's
so good. Honestly, so good.
It
lost a lot of my childhood.
It had the same sort of gameplay mechanics as GoldenEye did. So it was almost exactly the same as GoldenEye, but it had just so much more content to it.
Yeah.
A lot of when you like read into Time Splitters, a lot of people see it as a bit of a spiritual successor to GoldenEye.
Yeah, definitely. It really was.
But yeah, incredible game. So for my last one, then, I think this is one that's like it's talked about all the time by everyone as a reboot that needs to happen.
Yeah,
and that's Dino Crisis.
This was one of my honorable mentions as well.
it just needs to happen. Like, give it the full Resident Evil treatment.
Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, or I would even go, because Resident Evil 2 still very much kept like a lot of the original gameplay, didn't it? But it gave it like a new updated version.
Yeah,
I'd even go as far as to say like give it that Dead Space level of gameplay where it's more free flowing than Resident Evil, and the guns aren't, because the one thing I hate about Resident Evil is aiming the guns. Infuriates me. But give it that more free flowing, but like a proper dinosaur horror game.
Yeah.
Because again, why wouldn't you? Who doesn't love dinosaurs?
I know we said that vampires needs to make a comeback, but dinosaurs
dinosaurs need to make a comeback.
Yes.
I can imagine like I think they're bringing one out where it's like you're just chased by hordes of like velociraptors. I'm sure it's announced at like Summer Games or something.
There is. I can't remember what it's called, but there is a game that's coming out like that.
Yeah.
But that looks very like outdoorsy. Whereas, because if I remember Dino Crisis correctly, what I kind of want is like, imagine the story being like you're on the Jurassic Park island, like for whatever reason you end up going onto the island, and it's dark and like it's already been abandoned, and you're having to work your way through all of the complexes and stuff, and you're just hearing like the clacking of the velociraptor's claws like in the other room as you're trying to sneak your way through before getting fucking jump scare attacked. Oh,
yeah,
that would fill me with joy.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you compare it to something like Dead Space, where it's very creepy and ethereal, but it doesn't exist. Necromorphs aren't real, but dinosaurs, granted, they're not real now, but the fact that something
They
as
were.
terrifying did exist, it makes it that much fucking freakier, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah. I mean, it's never going to happen, but it needs to. So many people want it to happen.
Yeah. There's
So
a huge
many.
outcry for it, isn't there?
A huge outcry. It's such a beloved game, but I just don't think it's on. I don't even know. Was it Capcom? I don't know who made.
Possibly, maybe.
Capcom's coming to mind, but I don't think it's on anyone's radar.
Yeah.
To Dino Crisis game series was Capcom.
Yeah. I mean, Capcom are on fire at the minute as well with the games that they're bringing out.
I mean, maybe Capcom will turn around and go, oh, let's do it. Let's just do it.
Come on, Capcom, if you're listening, mate.
Do it, Capcom.
Sort it out.
I'm trying to think of like what modern day gun could you bring into a situation where you would feel comfortable entering a jungle cage situation with velociraptors. I can't think of one gun.
What's the biggest gun that you could possibly give me that could kill a T-Rex in one hit?
Well, so like that's the thing.
A tank?
Yeah, but like, what if you had to hold the gun? Like, that's the stipulation.
Well, I mean, you know more about guns than I do. What's the biggest gun you could give me?
Like, what I'm thinking of is, if you think of like a 50 caliber machine gun, but you can't really operate that you can't operate that mobily.
Yeah.
I just go for flamethrower and then just do 360 spins.
Yeah, but I feel like a velociraptor would outsmart a flamethrower.
Yeah, maybe.
Potentially.
I don't know.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'd probably just die.
Yeah.
I think I would just I'll just die in that situation. The velociraptors will just be having me for dinner.
And if they do make the remake, they need to do a section in the long grass. Like in Jurassic Park 2.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yes, they do. Right, so to wrap up then, should we quickly just run through any leftover honourable mentions? JB, did you have any honourable mentions?
I did, but they're all on your list of yours and Mike's list of honourable mentions. So I'm just gonna sit back and let you guys roll.
Okay, Mike, do you want to go ahead with your ones?
Freedom Fighters. Which do you remember this game at all?
It's again, I can see the case in my head, but I don't remember the gameplay.
So it's set in America that it got invaded by either Russia or Korea or one of the bad ones. But yeah, so you essentially were like forced underground, and you became these freedom fighters. But you'd sort of attack targeted locations that held like a fuel dump or ammo dump or whatever around parts of the city. And you'd also gather troops, and then you could command those troops in the battle. So it was like a third-person shooter. You could tell them to like attack, and then they just run in and just guns blazing and attack. It was really like simple and rudimentary, but I think with like the refinements of today, it could be like a really great game to bring back.
That sounds solid.
My next one was Champions of Norath, which is just a Diablo clone, but it was set in the EverQuest world. So it's just all elves and orcs and more elves. It was a great little game. Yeah, it's just a Diablo clone. There's nothing special.
Nerd shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a looter slasher thing. My next one is Siphon Filter.
Yes, this is
I
such a good pick.
Yeah. This should have been higher up on the list, to be fair. But yeah, just that needs to come back. Everyone loves Siphon Filter.
Yeah,
I even played like some of the
multiplayer
versions on the PS2 that we brought out, I think, which weren't as good, but I still loved them. Like, I love that game.
I'm actually surprised that Siphon Filter didn't end up in any of our top threes. Between the three of us, that's kind of crazy.
It is one that I dabbled with a lot, and then I saw Mike had it in his honourable mention, so I thought I'd just leave it there.
Yeah, that was such a good series.
That was a solid series.
Yeah.
The taser. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my god, well, you'd
That's
like hold
even-
it for like a little bit longer, and then they'd end up extra
Just watch
crispy.
them fucking burn. Oh, that's so good.
That's taking me back to the group episode.
Oh no.
And then a Dino Crisis, one of them, which we've already been through. And then As Your Dreams was this almost town builder like Stardew Valley, but you had a roguelike element where you'd go into a giant tower and you battle your way up the tower. And then it had this Pokemon element to it where you'd find eggs in the tower and you'd take them back home and hatch them, and then you'd use them to fight in the tower. But so it'd be like a day-night cycle type thing. So in the night, you'd go into the tower and battle away, and you'd come out, and then in the day, you'd sort of meeting people and sort of really like Stardew Valley, be helping to like develop the town and stuff. Like it was. I spent so much time on this game as a kid, and nobody's ever heard of it. But it was fucking fantastic, made by Konami as well.
Wow.
Sounds solid.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before.
Yeah, and one of the great things about this game, which always sticks in my head, was because it was made by Konami. When you're playing Metal Gear Solid, the first one, where you fight in Mantis and he reads your memory cards, it's a game that's actually voice acted, and it just fucking blew my 12-year-old mind. It's so good. He's like, "Oh, you've been playing As Your Dreams, have you?" So I was like, "What?"
You son of a
I
bitch.
was like, "Mom, help!" But yeah, that was it. It's like a relationship, city building, or little town building thing. It was great. So Shane, here's
Yeah,
yours
I'm just
one.
gonna. I'll quickly fly through mine. So, Tenchu. If anyone played the Tenchu games back on PlayStation, obviously
Another
there's
fucking great pick, man.
great games,
Yeah,
and
So good.
there's been a real like love for like samurais and ninjas recently with Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima. This feels like a good time to reboot it.
I mean,
Yes.
Sekiro was like the sort of spiritual successor, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was more Dark Soulsy, whereas
Yeah,
Tenchu
yeah.
was more like stealth and like
Yeah,
it was more like an Assassin's Creed, but you were a ninja.
it definitely
Yeah.
merits its own game.
If you snuck up on somebody in Tenchu and stabbed them, you either killed them or you made their life a lot more difficult. Whereas Sekiro, you could sneak up on somebody, they'd be like, I don't fucking care. This game's hard.
Yeah,
Tenchu wasn't like that.
Exactly. Dark Cloud, which I know I've spoken about on the podcast before, which is is an old level 5 game. It's
so
like a
good.
JRPG
It's really
where
good.
such a great game where you're like rebuilding the world after
Yeah, that was
something's
another
happened.
town building type thing where you
Yeah, and you had to go into like dungeons to get like materials to help you rebuild the world. Fantastic game.
Yeah.
Definitely need to reboot. Sly Cooper, which was on PlayStation 3, was like a cell shaded action platformer where you played as a raccoon called Sly, and he was a thief. And he had a turtle that was his mate, who was like the guy in the chair. Really, really good game. Really solid game.
Pretty sexy for a raccoon as well.
100%.
Putting that out there.
Duke Nukem. I'm not going to go into this too much because everyone knows who Duke Nukem is. Give it the Doom makeover.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Like, give it what they done with Doom. Do that with Duke Nukem.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, to top it off, Red Faction, but not Red Faction Guerrilla. Go back to like reboot it, but make it more like the original Red Faction. Because Red Faction 1 was incredible.
1 and 2 were like amazing.
So
I loved 1 and 2 as well. Did you not like Guerrilla?
I didn't mind Guerrilla, but Guerrilla came away from Guerrilla was more like GTA but on Mars, wasn't it? Whereas 1 and 2 were first person or third person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure 1 was a first person shooter. Well, yeah, it was definitely a first person shooter.
Yeah.
1 was a first person shooter with a really good storyline, whereas Guerrilla felt like GTA but on Mars.
Yeah, I think Guerrilla fell into that trap of making everything open world with like all these collectibles to collect everywhere because that was the trend at the time.
When it didn't need to be.
Yeah.
But Red Faction Guerrilla was still fun as fuck.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
Yeah,
when
if they reboot stuff up with a hammer and throwing C4 charges on everything. Everything just comes crumbling down. Like, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But if
But
they
you
reboot it, take it
can
back
only
to
do
those.
that for like 15 hours before you're like, all right.
Exactly. Take it back to those old school first-person story-driven
Yeah.
days of Red Faction.
Give me a big hammer still, but take it back to first person. Let me
And
smash through walls.
what's so satisfying about that series is that, I mean, we all love the original, Wolfenstein and Dooms, but it was all like, oh, you got to get the red key card if you want to get through this door. Where Red Faction was like, oh, do you have a grenade launcher? Because you can just blow this wall up if
Yeah.
this is where you're trying to go.
Oh.
That was so fucking great, man.
So you got the little fucking the little vehicle that had a drill on the front that you could just drill your way around.
Oh, yes.
So good, so good. But anyway, on that, Mike, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, we're done. So that's been this week's episode of Triple XP. Join us for the next episode where we have Number One Gun as our guest. If we missed any games that need a reboot, let us know in the comments. And yeah, that's it. So we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Triple XP. Triple XP. Triple XP.